Bro, episode 3 then, bruv.
Yeah,
Already?
exciting.
Yeah, great venue.
Yeah.
Got to give a shout out, Kidderminster Golf Club. Matt Raffinato, old friend of mine, sorted it out for us. He's one of the top managers here. West Brom fan though, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not too bad, not too bad. I was here Wednesday hitting a very bad round of golf. Recently got into that.
No, you don't get many rounds in there. So,
no.
But yeah, we're in the thick of it now.
Yeah, we're deep into it. Episode 1 and 2 out the way. Rust is well and truly off.
Enjoy it.
Really good, really good. I think, well, all we do at home, speak about football, so it's quite good to get something out there. What about yourself?
I really did. I think definitely from the last episode was Man United and Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get some backlash.
I think we're going to get some backlash, but hopefully some feedback, some good feedback. That's what it's about, isn't it? Opinions.
Yeah.
As long as everyone agrees with me, I don't mind.
Yeah. Can't believe you didn't put Scholes in, but that's
you wouldn't let me, would you?
No.
But we're 1-1 on the quizzes.
Yeah.
As well. So look forward to a different quiz at the end of this one. So yeah, it's great. Big shout out to Molly as well, producer, who's here again to help us. Kidderminster College as well for lending us the equipment, which is absolutely fantastic. I will put out there if there is anyone who wants to come on board and sponsor us. I think we'll be really grateful, and we'd do our bit the other way on the social media, etc. So
we can't wait for Molly's first appearance on the pod later.
Yeah, you will hear Molly's voice. Yeah. She is real. So yeah, you'll hear Molly's voice. Great guest as well, Neil Cox.
Yeah, he was really interesting, considering I wouldn't have known loads about him. He was really good insights and stories about, especially that Borough team of the 90s.
Borough team and Ravanelli, but he went into a great Villa side as well. Yeah. But no, he was great. He was great, wasn't he? I thought he gave us plenty of info, plenty of stories as well. So
he was a top guest.
So that'll be on today's episode. His interview. We've got some more great interviews coming up. So yeah, there we go. So you wanted to start with something, didn't you?
Yeah, I think obviously, as we mentioned in the other episodes, being Liverpool and Wolves fans, I think always nice to start on some negative notes. So I think let's kick off with our worst memories of being fans of the respective teams. Do you want to shoot us with it?
Yeah, good job I'm off work tomorrow. I've got loads. I had a real big think about this. So the worst ones, I grew up in a funny time. I think I said on the last part, obviously, when I was born, Wolves were in the 4th division. They'd had a real bad, massive decline. And then when I started following them, they just sort of got back into the Championship or the 1st division then. And we were always like the favourites to go up. So my first thought was, we lost in the playoffs in 1995 to Bolton. We had been flying. Graham Taylor took over. We spent lots of money. We had a great side, but we did have a lot of injuries as well. And we played in the playoffs. Absolutely battered Bolton 2-1 in the home leg. I wasn't there. I think that's the day I went to watch Kidderminster Harriers at Wembley against Woking. They lost.
Good day then.
Yeah. And I was 9, and we battered them in the home. But I think it might have been Jason McAteer got a really lucky goal to bring it back. And I'll tell you what, who played for them over these 2 playoffs. They were desperate for a goalkeeper. Yeah. And they didn't have one. And in the last minute, they called in Peter Shilton, who I think then was about 95. And he, believe it or not, was flying everywhere, saving loads, and we should have beat him, honestly, about 5-6-1. And then we went to the Old Burden Park in the midweek after, and we lost, and John McGinley scored, and I'm not lying, he literally punched David Kelly, and the ref didn't do it for them. There was a massive brawl, so that was my first thought, but I was 9, and I remember it, and I remember being gutted because the Premier League was like so fresh then. But I don't know whether at 9 it's it's the strongest feeling. I don't know whether at 9, I know yours, I've got no idea what yours might be, and it might well be. But anyway, then we had a worse one. Because on the year I did my GCSEs, and this is the reason I blame that I didn't do very well in my GCSEs. Literally, I blame this period. Nothing to do with the 10 or so years before this happened. This is the reason I failed them. We were finally going to get there. We'd had a couple of playoff disappointments. Dave Jones had come in. We'd signed some great players, Alex Ray, Colin Cameron, Dean Sturridge, Nathan Blake, and we're going to get there.
Proper players.
We are 11 points clear. I think Man City are up there with us as well. And we're 11 points clear of them up the road, Albion.
Yeah.
And Albion have come from nowhere. What are they doing up there? They're never up there. Really annoying.
Gary Megson, manager?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're 11 points clear. And then about March time, we started drawing some games. And then we lost a lot Grimsby at home. And we'd just been blowing teams off the bar. And then this happens. And I remember listening to a podcast with Paul Butler, centre-half at the time, and he said, it's literally momentum in football.
Yeah.
And if that changes, there's not a lot you can do. And we started losing, and they start winning. And then the gap, they just equal the gap. And then we had to go and win at Sheffield Wednesday and hope they lose, and they didn't. So we fall into the playoffs. And it was because, one, you're 11 points clear, and we're going to do it, and this is March. And secondly, it is your biggest rivals. And we lost in the playoffs to Norwich. We were never going to win the playoffs ever. We just weren't. You're not recovering from that. And we did go up the year after, but it was the worst ever moment, literally, I think, in my life. Honestly.
I think, obviously, supporting Liverpool, you may not know the kind of struggles of that league, but obviously living in the Midlands, that is the hardest league in the world, isn't it?
It is, and it's in your face, isn't it? Because then they're up.
Yeah.
It was horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I actually, whether I've lived a real sheltered life, but I can't really think of too many worse feelings I've ever had in my life.
So it's first world problems, but losing out to your rivals in that way. However, I thought you were going to mention the losing to them five times in a year, was it? Or four times in a draw?
No, because we beat them.
Oh, did you?
Jay Bothroyd.
We
did beat them, yeah. But do you know what? That year they were
better than you.
They were, and Mick McCarthy took over. I mean, we got to the playoffs. It was amazing us being there. You know, when he took over, we didn't even have a squad. So
what year was that? 06, 07?
06, 07. So to be honest, I could take that. We did lose some 5-1 as well. That was probably the second worst moment of my life. Yeah.
What about going down
Literally send me to war anytime.
What about going down to the third division, back-to-back relegations?
That was bad. That was bad, but not as bad as this.
No. Well,
honestly,
I think I can rival that. Obviously, I've got two, haven't I? Big ones. Both being on birthdays. First one being...
You know about when I didn't give you a present?
Happens every year. The first one being the Gerrard slip, which was on your birthday, wasn't it? 2014?
That was on my birthday, yeah.
I think it was a 2 o'clock kickoff maybe, or a 4:30. And that was depression.
Of all players, though.
Of all players.
I mean, it is funny, but of all players...
Funny for you, not funny for me.
Yeah.
Obviously getting stick as well all day. Denver Bar. Torres playing for them. Mo Salah, obviously didn't know it at the time. And then having Istanbul, I think they call it now. But we were 3-0 up against Palace and drawing 3-3.
Dwight Gale. Did he score?
Dwight Gale.
And Suarez was crying.
Suarez was crying. Gerrard was hitting the camera away. That was bad.
Would that have been a couple of weeks before?
No, that was the Wednesday after the Chelsea game.
Oh dear, bad
So
week.
people think it was the Gerrard slip, but obviously we tried scoring like 6 or 7 past them. Do that. That was a bad day, but I think we both know what it is, don't we?
We do.
For a bit of background, my 10th birthday, 2007, 2 years after the best game of football you'll ever see, Istanbul. We then go to Athens. and Filippo Inzaghi scores 2, both stupid goals, but losing a Champions League birthday and your 10th birthday as well was pretty low.
Was that the time when they had the Reece and Bellamy thing?
That was that year, yeah.
I remember that. But to be fair, I mean, I suppose when you're 10 and it's your birthday and you think you're in the Champions League, you know, it is bad. But I suppose the fact that you had won it 2 years before against the odds softens it a bit.
It does soften it.
Yeah.
It's just the birthday, I think. Because I've seen us lose many a final. And that one does sting. I think worse than yours, to be honest, bruv.
It doesn't because I was in a bad way.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking.
Wasn't to our rivals.
I think you know, that was 2002. I think in 2026 that would be I need some counselling or therapy. Yeah, but do you know what? Yours are losing finals. Yeah. I would love to have losing finals.
What about the semi-final?
That was a bad one as well.
Against Watford.
Yeah.
Get your mask on, Raoul.
Come on.
That was bad.
That was bad. Yeah,
should we go on to happier notes?
Yes.
Go on then. What's your happiest moment being a Wolves fan?
Oh, I've had loads. I've had a few. I remember going to my first game.
Yeah.
Listen to this. My first game, 1993, against Southend. In 94. It was February 94. In the 93-94 season, we only lost 3 games at home, and I went to 2 of them. I went to 2 games, I went to 2 of 3. But we did lose, but I would never, ever forget the feeling of walking into the ground your first time, and I'm glad I did it at an age I can remember.
Yeah.
So that was amazing, but that's, you know, but in terms of happiness, I think it might be the 2003 playoff final. Probably because we'd had what happened the year before.
Yeah.
We started the season, so if we wouldn't have signed 2 experienced players like Paul Ince and Dennis Irwin, I don't think we'd ever recovered.
Some players, though.
Yeah, they were, and we needed 2 players who are almost too big for that division, who don't really care about that division. They didn't care about, you know, obviously they weren't part of the year before.
You had some top midfielders, actually, didn't you?
Yeah, but they were all still there from the year before, and they're brilliant. We added these 2 players, and we actually didn't start that well. You know, I think like Christmas, I remember going to we played Bradford and we lost, and they were quite far down. It was bad. And then we played Newcastle in the FA Cup in one of the best games ever. We were 2-0 up, 2-2, on 3-2, and we then hit a run, and we went into the playoffs as the form team. I think from January we lost once or twice, hit the ground, and then there was this big thing about tickets as mess ups. I was told I had one, I didn't. And a friend of mine, Wes, shout out to Wes, big Harriers fan, so he's quite happy at the moment. But he was worked for, I think, Wyvern Radio then. I'm not sure if Wyvern's still going there, based in Worcester. And he got me an interview on Heart FM. So this was the Bank Holiday Monday. On the Sunday, I had an interview, and I worked at the Westminster Safari back then. So I went from thinking I had a ticket to not having one. Yeah. And I went on the news every hour this interview with my horrible voice going, yeah, I'm really gutted. I didn't have a ticket, and they messed me around, and I'm absolutely heartbroken. And a friend of Dad's, he had a spare ticket and got me one. So I had to pretend I was sick at work, but I was in the Express and Star and a picture and been on the radio. Been on the radio, but yeah, they understood. Got it. 3-0 up against Sheffield United, they had got to the semi-final of the FA Cup, the semi-final of the League Cup. Neil Warnock was manager. He had a lot of experience in it. 3-0 up at half-time. And then you're still thinking, we've got no chance. It was at Millennium Stadium as well, which I think was a brilliant venue. Matt Murray saves a penalty after about 5 minutes of the second half, and then you sort of knew.
Some keeper, wasn't he?
Some keeper. And we were then in the Premier League, and you know, all of my life at that point, growing up, I couldn't remember us in the 3rd and 4th division, but it had just been Division 1, either playoffs, being favourites to go up, or mediocre. I think we'd had a semi-final in '98 in the FA Cup, so it'd been like, and then we'd had that disappointing the year before. So to actually do it, and we only had the 1 year in the Prem, but to do it was amazing.
When was the time before that you were in the top division? It had been some years.
1984, I believe.
1984, so 20 years without it. Yeah. That's some going for a big team as well.
Big club, and we had gone right to the bottom.
Yeah. What was that? Boiling hot day?
Do you know what? And it wasn't a case of, because I don't remember even going to a pub. I don't remember really drinking. The day passed me by. It was such a big thing. And I remember this old couple was stood next to me. And I remember at the end of the game, because I didn't celebrate at half-time.
Yeah.
I didn't trust us, 3-0 up, but I thought, no, it was too perfect. And yet at the end of the game, they both hugged me. And they said they've never met anyone so nervous, because I was like, I don't know, I just couldn't sit. It was just, yeah. And that's what I remember. And I remember coming back, and I went to college the next day, and I had my big flag. But for a Wolves fan, I'm getting a bit emotional when I'm speaking about it now, but for a Wolves fan then, it had been hard work.
Yeah.
It had been hard work, so, yeah.
And that was a top team as well. It's one of your favourite teams, wasn't it?
Eh?
The Wolves team.
That team?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant. You know, Dennis Irwin, Jolene Lescott, Matt Murray, you know, Ray, Ince, Cameron, Stuart Blake, Miller, Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and to be honest, like I said, up until I think we were about 10th coming to Christmas.
Yeah.
And again, even after what happened the year before, we'd obviously added Paul into Denton. We were favourites to win the league again, you know, and it's the same every year. So, yeah.
Who did you beat in the semis?
Reading, who I think they were an upcoming team. We beat them 2-1 at home, if I remember, and beat them 1-0 away. Yeah. Alex Ray scored a great goal. So, yeah, Reading.
And how would you say that compared to when you next went up as a Wolves fan?
When we next went up was under Mick McCarthy, who won the league. Yeah. And he had done it, and that was brilliant, because he had done it with a team that didn't have the Premiership experience.
Were you there on that day?
Yeah, I was there. We got promoted against QPR, and then I was there the day we won the league away at Barnsley. Yeah, and then it was amazing again this time, you know, and Nuno. But when we went up under Nuno, I say this time we get relegated now, but when we went up under Nuno, I knew we had top players. Yeah. I might sound biased, but in my time, I don't believe there's been a better Championship side when you had in Ruben Neves, Jota, Willy Bolly, Cody, John Ruddy, right, you know, really good side. So I knew we were going to be great. But the 2003, I think it was relief more than anything.
Then you say about the Nuno team, I think you were saying to me the other day that your second favourite would probably see senior team Europe. You went to some good places. Yeah,
I was lucky. Yeah, so my dream was to see us. My biggest dream is to see us win a trophy at Wembley. That's my big. And I don't care what it is. I want to see us win a trophy, and that still is the same. But the other one, to see us in Europe, we finished 7th twice. We didn't go into Europe the second time. I think the year after we would have. Yeah. But yeah, we did. I mean, the first game was in Northern Ireland. I mean, you might see these tropical places, and it was Northern Ireland. But I saw us there, and I went to the game in Braga, and I went to the Espanyol game as well. Yeah. So, you know, I've been lucky to go and watch England abroad and tournaments. But to see Wolves, yeah, that was amazing. Yeah. But that 2003, and because it was a final, it felt like a final. It was special. Yeah. How about yourself?
I think two come to mind, but I think, you know, the 2019-20 season, obviously I know it goes into COVID, but 25 points clear at the COVID stage, and then not knowing if that season was going to, you know, carry on, if you remember the hysteria around that. Yeah. And then finally watching us, you know, lift that trophy, albeit bittersweet, was amazing. I think then last year...
Yeah, you know, that 2021, it had been, how many years? Nearly 30.
30.
So even though, and I'm the same, obviously I was, so in 91 1990. Yeah. So I was 4. So I don't actually remember them winning it that year. But even when you know, like us, we're football nuts, we watch old stuff, even as people who don't actually remember that 1990, it's still amazing to think Liverpool wouldn't win it again.
For 30 years.
And in my time in the 90s, now and again they pushed, now and again, but you never really thought they were going to do it. No. So that was brilliant. Because when was the year? Was it the year before Man City won it and you had like 90 points?
Yeah, the year before that, the 18-19 season, we got 97 points.
And that is amazing, isn't
ridiculous.
It?
But I think the thing that obviously softened that was the Champions League win.
Yes.
You win in the Champions League, obviously the biggest trophy you can win. But for us, I think the Premier League being so long, having that kind of, weight was massive. But then last year, seeing all the scenes, being there a couple of times, probably just eclipsed it.
Really?
I think just that everybody being able to celebrate it, I think we won it at a bit of a canter as well, again.
You did, yeah.
Really.
But do you know what I think? Honestly.
Go on.
I think you won it at a canter and it was brilliant. And I fair play to the manager because he didn't tinker with it much, did he?
No.
I thought it was good management. But I've heard a couple of things where you won it at a canter, but you sort of dropped off and they were celebrating a bit much.
Yeah, we probably celebrated, but then...
I don't know. I can't imagine Pep doing that or Sir Alex.
Maybe not.
I can't. I'm not sure of that negative, but it was still amazing. Still
but
great.
Do you think, obviously the one thing why we've started this podcast is probably our love of old football. Do you not just think everything's overanalyzed now? Like celebration police, all that?
I do, but I do think, and I mean this in a lot of sports, I think that these days we do over-celebrate.
Oh, we do.
I do. I'll go back to, I think I said on another episode where, when I remember talking to some Germans and they're like, we don't celebrate being a runner-up. And I think we go a little bit over the top. And I don't want to say miserable on that. And look, if Wolves were to win something, I'd be over the top for days and days. I really would. But I do think that sometimes... I think the best ones, when you used to hear about the days of Shankly and Paisley where, I've heard it from ex-players where they won the league...
Just be on to the next
trophy, and that's it. And I think that's the real winner mentality.
Yeah.
I think you should acknowledge wins, of course you should. And I think, at the end of the season, whether it's an open top bus, whatever. But I do think if there's still games to be played, it means business. And I mean that on the opposite, I've seen it with Wolves, we've been relegated for a while and they've dropped off.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's unprofessional. I think you should be now gearing up for the next challenge, and I think that maybe dropped off. But it was a great win, and fair play to the manager.
Well, talking of over celebrating, coming on to our next segment of top 10 England games in the 80s, 90s, and 00s.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what England did best. Celebrate those tiny wins and make DVDs about them.
You've got it, haven't you?
Yeah, so obviously top 10 England games, we're going to rank them. We're going to get a combined list of both of them. Yeah,
we do recognise that. So we decided to do best England wins from the 80s, 90s, 2000s. We know there's significant games that we were going to do that in terms of the Maradona game where we lost, but it was a real significant game. But we decided to do it on our wins. So it'd be interesting if we've got some of the same.
Yeah.
I haven't ranked mine. I've done mine in order of dates. That they're not all the best England's performances, but I think that there might have been something significant that happened in it. Yeah. There are some with the brilliant performances, but
that's fine. We'll rank them together. We'll do it 1 to 10.
Well, should I read mine out first? My 10 that I've got?
Yep, go for it.
Right, so first one I've got England away at Brazil, 1984, 2-0.
Got that as
which is, have you got that as well? Yeah. Obviously, first of all, it's an amazing achievement then to be beating Brazil away, 2-0. John Barnes, I'll give you £1 if you say the other scorer.
Not Tony Aitley, Mark Aitley.
Yeah, well read. So obviously that goal is really famous. So, to be honest, that was my only real standout one in the actual 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've got another one.
Second one, I've got 1-0 versus Belgium in the World Cup 1990.
Not got that.
One of the best games. One of my favourite England players, David Platt.
Yeah.
I've got another one, the game after that, actually, in the World Cup, which was 3-2 versus Cameroon.
Got that.
Platt and Lineker 2. Reason being is I think that if we wouldn't have beaten Cameroon, it would have been, not great, and we were 2-1 down. So
Roger Miller coming on.
Roger Miller, next one is Euro 96, 2-0 versus Scotland.
Got that.
You got that. I have to say, when I have watched, when they repeat them all, I know, nostalgia and everything. We were up until we scored the first goal, we were absolutely rubbish.
Awful.
And then obviously they missed the penalty. Gary Mack and Gazza scores probably the best goal I've ever seen.
Probably. Do you reckon they missed it, or was it just Yuri Geller sorting us out from the sky?
Well, he was an oddball, wasn't he?
Yeah, very oddball. But that Gazza goal's the best.
Wasn't he like Michael Jackson's best friend as well? He was weird.
Nobody owns up to that.
He was weird. And then literally the game after they played Holland 4-1.
Got that.
Shearer 2, Sheringham 2, Patrick Kluivert, Scotland out. And when we do say we didn't do it on purpose, but that game was amazing. That game, the performance was brilliant.
Best performance of the 90s?
Yeah, probably. I have to say, the best game I saw was play, and it wasn't a win. And I thought in 1990 World Cup was against Germany. I thought we were really good.
Yeah.
And I class this as England's. And again, the next game I've got, they were rubbish. I watched the game. They were rubbish. It was a terrible game. But I think this is one of our most important wins, and it's the 2-0 away Scotland in the playoffs.
Well.
Scholes 2. Reason being is, and I know we didn't have a great tournament, but if we would have not qualified because we lost the playoffs to Scotland, that takes some recovering, doesn't it?
Yeah, because they hardly make a tournament.
They beat us in the second leg, but
who scored?
Don Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Seaman did a great save for the game, but I just thought that was really, really important. The next one, which might rival the Holland one, was Germany away 5-1, September 01, Gerrard 0-3 and Heskey.
Yeah, I think that's probably our best qualifying performance.
It wasn't a playoff. We'd lost to them in the home in the last one.
Keegan.
The next one I've got is Germany. Sorry. The next one I've got is in the World Cup 02, Argentina 1-0, Beckham.
Haven't got that.
Because of what had happened
4 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, we'd all been putting our hand on the newspaper and Beckham's metatarsal, which when you look back now, you're like, what was I doing? But we all believed it was going to cure him.
Keeper should have saved it.
Yeah.
Who gave the foul away against Owen?
Was it Pochettino?
Pochettino, long hair.
It was, and I think he wasn't fully fit, was he? And he had missed a penalty, or a couple of penalties before or after. He seemed to take penalty. He didn't have a great record.
Rubbish. He missed for such a good player as well. He missed against Turkey, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he missed against France in the Euros.
And he kept looking at the thing.
Every time.
Yeah, people do that, don't they?
Yeah. Didn't Trevor Sinclair as well play in that game? He had a good tournament.
He had a good tournament. Hargreaves, and I actually think our best player was Nicky Butt. Yeah. We'll talk about that when we talk about the O2 World Cup. But I just thought it seemed like a big win.
Massive win.
It was a massive win. That was GCSE time as well.
Yeah, they wheeled that out on a big TV in the Assembly Hall for me.
Did that?
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah. And then the next one I've got is Euro 04 beat Croatia 4-2.
Yeah, it's in mine.
Scholes, Rooney 2, Lampard. They were no mugs, Croatia then. They'd had a good World Cup at night. They were a good team. And I'd look, recent Tottenham Igor Tudor scored.
Yeah.
But that was, I remember that Rooney was brilliant. Because we'd lost the first game, hadn't we?
France, we were 1-0 up. Gerrard does a back pass.
Yeah.
Free kick.
And I just remember this game seemed to have played really well. And then my last one, is a friendly versus a Greek place in. It's a Saturday night. I went to a Greek place, and I found it really weird that they were just smashing plates on the floor. And I remember thinking, my OCD was going mad because there was all these plates on the floor, which was driving me mad. But I just thought, what a waste of money.
Big Argentina fans.
And I remember saying to someone, when they used paper plates, and they said, well, it wouldn't have the same effect, would it? But I think I watched that, and I remember that was 3-2, and it was an amazing game.
Owen scored in the last couple of minutes.
Like, it was a bit of a random friendly.
Yeah.
And my friends who I started going to the England games, I know they went to that. So So which ones have
Which ones have we agreed on?
We've agreed on Brazil 2-0.
Yeah.
Belgium 1-0. No.
No, I didn't have Belgium. Cameroon, I had 3-2.
Yeah.
Scotland 96.
I'm going to tick the ones we've agreed on.
Scotland 96, Holland 96, Scotland 2000.
I didn't think you'd have that.
Germany 2001, Croatia 2004.
Yeah.
And some of the ones I've put, and which I thought you would have put, was England-Portugal 1998, Glenn Hoddle. I think that...
Oh, that was number 11.
Yeah.
Shearer scored an amazing goal.
Yeah, Batty plays it.
Outplayed them. Yeah, we were good.
I think it was probably one of our best performances under Hoddle.
Yeah.
And one of our best team performances.
Yeah.
What else have we got here? So, we've got these, and then I've got France 1982, first game of the World Cup.
Brian Robson.
I think that's Brian Robson's best game for England. Scores in 37 seconds. So the only bit sweet about that is we didn't make it through to the semis, was it then? They had two groups, I think.
Two weird groups.
Yeah.
Weird.
But I think that was probably our best game and our first World Cup game in 12 years. So had that in. Am I missing any others? Yes, Croatia 2008 away. So I've put that in. We beat them 4-1. Walcott scored a hat-trick.
Yeah.
Why I've put that in is we lost to Croatia the year before at Wembley.
Oh, for the
3-2. And that was a pretty dark one. Wally and the Brolly. And then, obviously, Walcott scored that hat-trick.
I'm just trying to think out of mine which you'd take out to put any of those in.
I can't believe we agreed on England-Brazil, because, fun fact for you, that wasn't aired in the UK the first half. Silla's surprise dating show was on.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Silla Black.
Silla Black, sorry, yeah. Surprise,
didn't have to stutter. Yeah.
Yeah. What should we get in there then? I'm going to put forward that England-France game 1982.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we put that in, and then take...
What else? What else should we take?
Maybe take the Argentina one, I like, against Beckham. When I look back now...
Doing a combined list here, Rob. It's not in there. These are the ones that we've agreed on so far.
That's what I mean.
Okay. So far, in our top 10, we've got England-Brazil, England-Cameroon, England-Scotland 96, Holland 96, Scotland 2000, 5-1 against Germany, Croatia 2004, and, we just said France 1982, didn't we?
Yeah. Because let's take that out, because when I look back and we were all like this on the newspaper saying, please heal, I just cringe, so let's take that out. And actually, I hadn't forgiven him at that point for what happened 4 years earlier, so do you know what? You're right, mate. Yeah.
What about England-Portugal?
Maybe, do you know what? I do remember the game. Yeah, I do remember that game. So I suppose if you're putting that up against the friendlies we've got in here, which is Argentina 3-2,
oh, that's got to go in, hasn't
it? And the Brazil one, which was away at Brazil, I don't think
Brazil's
makes it.
I'm going to say,
and I don't think Portugal. I mean, it was a brilliant game. I'm not sure they were quite the team they were a few years later.
Figo, didn't they? But not many.
Maybe Rui Costa, I think he played as well.
So shall we go England, Argentina, Geneva?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was 2005, wasn't it?
Yeah.
3-2.
Yeah.
They had a good team as well, Argentina. Crespo on top.
He scored a thing. Yeah.
So what we got there then? We got 3, 6, 9. We need one more than bruv. One more.
So which ones have I got in that you didn't have?
Don't know, read
I think we've got to have the Belgium one.
Yeah, Belgium.
Platty, great goal.
We love Platt, don't we?
They were doing literally the last minute before he was going to go to penalties, and we know we weren't going to be good at them.
Right. And that was 1-0.
Yeah.
Extra time, wasn't it? And the main man was there, wasn't he, celebrating with him?
Literally, he would have scored. He would have scored, yeah. First to hug him. Yeah.
So, top 10. And we'll have to decide our favourite.
I actually think it's easy to go first, number one. I think that's probably the Germany or Holland.
Well, you've just said it's easy, and then you've gone between two.
Yeah.
I think Holland.
Yeah.
So we're saying England, Holland, yeah?
Yeah, one.
Brilliant.
And again, we want everyone to give us their feedback on this as well.
Yeah. We're going Germany too.
Yeah.
What are we going 3 then?
I think...
Scotland 96?
Yeah.
Just the iconic?
Do you know what? I think maybe the Croatia 2004.
Yeah. We thought we were going to win it then, didn't we?
Yeah.
That game.
It's when I used to be stupid.
I'm still in that stage.
Yeah.
Right, we're going Croatia 3 then. 4, I think.
What about for the significant and how big it was? What about the Cameroon one?
Yeah, first quarter-final since we won it.
Yeah.
Right, that's 4. 5.
I reckon, should we go Scotland 2-0? Euros.
I can't believe that's 5th.
I know, and do you know what? Again, and I've watched it back, the 2-0 playoff one it really was important.
Do you think, was the old Wembley a bigger pitch than now? It looked massive on TV.
Yeah. It seemed it, because everything was further away. Makes me laugh. All you ever hear from these old players is, first thing they say is, everyone wants to play at Wembley, and then all they do is moan about how bad the pitch was. And it was always because there was like a Horse of the Year show on it or something like that. Yeah. I'm going to pitch that. No, do you know what? For how good we were, should we go for that Argentina 3-2?
Only friendly though.
Yeah, let's go.
Right. Over Belgium?
Oh, we've not got Belgium in yet?
No.
Oh, Belgium.
Belgium.
Yeah.
Belgium 6.
Yeah.
Argentina 7.
I think Scotland playoff one. It was really important.
Yeah.
I know I've said that a million times. And
so
then
now we've got...
Brazil 2-0.
We've got either Brazil 2-0 or France.
They were a decent team then, Brazil as well.
I looked through the line, I didn't know many. I thought Zico would have been playing. And players like that.
He was on surprise.
Right, it's either... We've got France 1982, Argentina 2005.
I forgot about your France one, yeah.
And Brazil. First time we beat Brazil in Brazil.
Yeah.
Argentina was a...
Let's go. Shall we go Brazil?
We'll go Brazil. And then France.
Brazil, France, Argentina.
Right then.
Real. So just so everyone knows... And do you know what? We'll put this up on the socials after the episode's out.
Right. So, should we go 10-1?
Yeah.
Right. In 10, England, Argentina, 2005.
Can't you do it like Top the Pops used to do the top 10?
No.
In 10? No? Okay.
I thought that was bully. Right. In 10, England, Argentina, 3-2, 2005. 9, we're going England, France, 1982, 3-1. 8, we're going England, Brazil, 2-0. Barnes' Bunda goal. 7, we're going England, Scotland, as Rob keeps saying, most significant game of football ever played. 6, we're going England, Belgium. You love a boy.
Platty.
Yeah. In 5, Scotland again, 96. Dentist chair. Most iconic celebration ever?
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be up there, hasn't it? I forgot about the dentist chair. But that, I think, 2 goals, I'm sure we'll discuss this again, but 2 England goals stand out to me in my time. One was Michael Owen, Argentina.
Yeah.
But that Gaza goal, I can't ever think of a goal like it.
No.
Everyone was trying to recreate it. I did feel a bit sorry for Colin Hendry, but he had a lot of stick. But I can't think of another goal like it.
Yeah, I agree.
Amazing.
Especially that significance as well.
Yeah.
4, we got England-Cameroon 3-2. Brilliant game of football. And then our top 3 then, bruv, it is England-Croatia 2004 4-2. England-Germany 5-1, Owen hat-trick. And our 1 is England-Holland 96 4-1.
Great games in there.
Great games.
Not one of those is us winning something.
No, that's what we do best. That is what we do best.
Great top 10. And like I say, you know, I'm sure there'll be some games where people will say, what about this? You know.
Yeah.
But, good top 10 there. Brilliant.
Right, coming up next is a interview. Have a watch of this.
Hi everyone, our guest this week is James Pearce, who covers everything Merseyside for The Athletic. Big welcome, James. Thanks for joining us.
Hi guys, how are you? You okay?
Really good, thank you. Really good. Just to start with, so as a young man, before you got into journalism, who did you follow? Who was your team?
Yeah, do you know what? It was always Liverpool actually. My aunt is a Scouser, and she bought me a scarf and a shirt when I was about 6 or 7 years of age. So I grew up in Bath in the southwest of England, which of course is a bit of a strange area in terms of kind of big footballing clubs, because there isn't, you know, you probably at the time you either had to go to Southampton or Aston Villa those were the kind of the two which, and then even the 2 Bristol clubs in the Football League were, you know, probably a half an hour drive from Bath to Bristol, and no real affinity with those clubs either. So I was born in '77. So by, you know, of course, being a football mad kid, you know, 6-7 years of age in the mid '80s, everyone at my school was either Liverpool or Everton, despite the fact that that both clubs were 200 miles up north. For me it was always red.
Fantastic. And was journalism something that you always wanted to get into?
Growing up as a young lad, I dreamed of being a player. That was the kind of the initial kind of, you know, where you're thinking about, you know, what do you want to do when you're older. But, you know, the bedroom wall was covered in kind of shoot and match posters with Ian Rush, John Aldridge, John Barnes, Peter Beardsley, Jan Molby. They were my heroes. But yeah, I think you get to probably 10 or 11, and then the kind of the brutal reality of actually, that's not going to happen. When you looked around at, you know, how good some of the kids were, and you thought, I'm not going to be a professional footballer. So when my dad used to take me to games, it just used to fascinate me that there were these people who were, you know, sat in this box towards the back of the main stand, or at these wooden benches, and they had their notepads, and I'm not even sure that laptops even existed back then. And just that kind of, you know, imagine being able to do that for a job. People that actually go there and write about football. So I'd say probably from about the age of 12 or 13 was when I was kind of pretty clear that, like, that's what I wanted to do. And I was probably about, I think, 13 when I first did work experience on the local newspaper in Bath.
Oh, brilliant. So obviously being a Liverpool fan in the 80s, but obviously being from Bath, what was your first game that you remember going to, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, first Liverpool game I remember going to was actually an away game at Highfield Road. They played Coventry, last game of the 89-90 season. Liverpool had wrapped up the league title a couple of years before. And the junior football team that I played for at the time, called Bear Flat, they used to always organise like an annual trip to a Premier League game, and we'd have like a 5-a-side tournament in the morning and then go to the game in the afternoon. So yeah, glorious hot day, May 1990, Highfield Road. I remember Kevin Gallagher scored for Coventry inside about 2 minutes. And then Liverpool came back and won 6-1. John Barnes got a hat-trick. And then I went to a few other kind of away games in the south of England. And then I'd been on my dad's case for quite a while to take me to Anfield, and then it was October 1990 was my first trip to Anfield. He got the tickets as a surprise ahead of my, I think I would have been 12 years of age then, ahead of my birthday. And yeah, the memories of that day are just etched in the mind forever. Just, the walking up the steps and seeing that, pristine green playing surface for the first time. And, of course, back then in 1990, the Kop was still standing, and we had seats in the main stand, and just staring at the Kop, and just absolutely kind of bewitched by it in terms of the colour, the splendour, the noise, the way that the fans would sway. Liverpool played Chelsea, beat them 2-0. I think it was Ian Rush and Steve Nicol both scored. John Barnes made both of them, and then convinced my dad to stay around for a few hours after the game. Got loads of autographs and pictures with players. It was a completely different era, really, in terms of no security or anything back then. You just kind of waited around by the players' cars in the main stand car park. And I always remember my dad bought me a scarf that day that had kind of Liverpool 18 times champions of England on it. And I remember saying to him on the way home, I wish I hadn't picked this one, because this will be out of date next May, because it's got. And I never realised that that scarf would remain in date for for 30 years, because when Liverpool did finally break that long drought under Jurgen Klopp in 2020, I had that scarf on that night when I think it was Chelsea did Liverpool a favour to get them across the line mathematically.
Yeah, and that's literally was going to be my next question. Actually, I was going to say, you've grown up in a time in the 80s where it's just been success after success, with obviously European Cups at the start, FA Cups, obviously league championships, and then from 1990, that's your last one for so long. I bet you can't have imagined that the 90s was a little bit of a drag for Liverpool. Whereas my experience as a Wolves fan, when I was a kid, we were always in the Division 1, so you got used to disappointment. You never thought it was going to get any better. But I suppose from your point of view, as a young fan with all that success, you probably thought, well, this would just continue forever.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I just remember as a kid, even Liverpool winning the league, it didn't feel like a massive deal, because it was almost like routine. It was like, we'll win it again next year, and and especially that period in the late 80s when of course they do the double in 86, and they should have done the double again in 89 in 88 when they lost the FA Cup final to Wimbledon. 89 they were so close to doing another double when they lost the title in the last seconds to Arsenal, and then even 1990 when they win the league, yet they lose 4-3 to Palace in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. It was because it was such an era of success, and of course coming off the back of you're kind of living in the 80s, but you also you're obsessed with the history side of things, and you realise just like it had been a dynasty with Liverpool dominating the 70s as well, and you learn about how Shankly had transformed the club in the 60s. So you just kind of feel that the good times are gonna keep on rolling, and then the 90s were grim. That was the period when I was able to start kind of travelling around on my own, following Liverpool, going with mates to games rather than relying on my dad. And with the the Souness era was pretty bleak. And then Roy Evans produced some scintillating football and had some great times. I came to Liverpool University in 1996. Purely so I could go to Anfield every week. So thankfully they did the course I wanted to do as well. That was a bonus. But going to Anfield every week from 96 to 99 when I was a student in the city was it was still amazing. But of course it wasn't the kind of era that you kind of hoped it would be, because despite all the good football, Liverpool had very little to show for it in terms of a trophy. Roy Evans obviously only won the League Cup, and then you had the added misery of of watching Manchester United dominate.
Yeah, and did you ever get inspired to buy a white suit off the back of the football?
I didn't. No. It's funny actually how often over the years I've had conversations with players who were involved in that squad, because I helped John Aldridge out with a podcast he does, and we've had people like David James and John Barnes and coming on, and and Robbie Fowler and people like that, and it's I think David James tends to get the blame for that when he was the one that had the modelling contract with Armani at the time, and although I think he actually tried to blame John Barnes as captain, but yeah, it's funny how things stick, isn't it? Because what they all say, which I completely agree with them, is if Liverpool win that final, nobody ever mentions the suits, do they? It's and also it was, people forget that was such a bad game. That was such a terrible final. It was. I actually remember. I was playing cricket actually for my. I was still at school, coming to the end of like sixth form at school, and I had a very tiny like black and white portable TV, and I managed to get a picture on it to watch that cup final whilst I was waiting to go out to bat, and I felt like a right idiot, because I'd said to a few of the lads I was playing cricket with, I'd said to them, right, you got to make sure you keep me updated on anything that happens in the game, any goals or anything. Like, I'll be looking across between overs. Anyway, I walked out to bat. First ball edged it behind. And I got back to the little telly in the pavilion, but I think before the game had even restarted after an injury. So it was a thoroughly miserable day in more ways than one, that one.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then so in terms of your journalist, was it always sports and football journalism that you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. The way it worked then was that I still had to do a bit of everything to get qualified and to get my foot in the door. So I had to kind of do some news. I had to do things like court reporting and features writing and covering big news events. But yeah, it was only really the sport and football in particular that really like drove me to want to do it. So yeah, I left Liverpool Uni 1999. Went away travelling to Australia, like backpacking for 5-6 months. And then kind of during university holidays, I'd kind of volunteered at the local paper, just doing work experience and saying to them, look, if there's ever like, a lower non-league game that you want covering, I'll happily go and do it and send you a report. And so I'd kind of managed to get myself in a position where like when the next job would come up, that hopefully they'd think of me. So yeah, I was actually still in Australia actually in like, must have been kind of April, May 2000 when I got an email basically to say a job's come up, but if you want it, you're gonna have to come back in like 2 weeks. So yeah, it was, I couldn't turn that down. So I ended up starting at the Bath Chronicle, which at the time was still a daily newspaper then. It's a weekly one now. And then spent 5 years there from like 2000 to 2005. Very, very different compared to wherever I've worked since, because obviously Bath is a rugby dominated city. But I always did the football. I always did Bath City, non-league, Chippenham Town, clubs like that. And yeah, although it's a world away from the bright lights and the money of the Premier League, it was a brilliant grounding in terms of learning how to do the job and how to try and build relationships with people and to try and earn people's trust.
Going on to your kind of, your first break there with the Bath Chronicle, do you remember the first game you kind of covered? Was it a local kind of non-league, as you said?
Yeah, it would. God, I can't remember exactly which game it was, but it would have been Bath City. And it was funny. I remember I bought myself like a £700 F-Reg little Nissan Micra that I absolutely ran into the ground, because even though obviously it's like regionalised at that level, because I think it was before they created Conference North and Conference South. It would have been the Southern Premier League at the time. But you still had a hell of a lot of travelling. Like sometimes I'd go to like Margate one Saturday and then Dover away the following Saturday. And you're talking like 500, 600 mile round trips, some of them. Yeah, they were great. They were great times, because sometimes you'd be like, you'd go somewhere like on a Tuesday night to and some of the grounds at that level, the facilities are almost non-existent, and you'd be sat there with a pad and a pen, getting that, it's absolutely lashing down, and your pad is like soaking wet, and you're desperately trying to find a dry bit of paper to write your notes on. So yeah, it was just so different. But yeah, it in terms of like a grounding, I think it was perfect. And whenever I speak to young aspiring journalists these days, I always say to them, like, nothing beats getting out there and getting your hands dirty and kind of covering grassroots sport, because of course everyone wants to write about Mo Salah and Liverpool winning Premier League titles and stuff, but the skills you need to try and do that, the low level stuff is just a brilliant place to kind of get that experience.
Yeah, and is it like football? Do you sort of start at the bottom and then you're hoping to get sort of promoted to cover a bigger paper and club and
Yeah.
go like that? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
To you?
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't really have a clear plan when I worked at the Bath Chronicle. I just kind of thought the dream for me was always to be able to come back to Liverpool, because I love Liverpool as a city. And so I used to buy the Liverpool Echo every day when I was a student in the city. So, but I kind of thought, well, that might not happen. Things don't always just fall into place, do they? And imagine how many hundreds of other people would love that job that comes up at the Echo. So I was kind of like reaching a point in 2005 where I was thinking, like, as much as I love what I was doing, it was like it's such a small kind of place, Bath, and it was like, I'd love to be able to go, and even if it's to go and cover a League One or a League Two club, and just try and move up the ranks a little bit. And then I noticed that there was a job going at the Echo as like a general sports reporter. So I applied for that, came up for an interview, didn't hear back for a couple of months. So I assumed I assumed the interview had gone so badly that they didn't even think I was worth a stamp just to say thanks but no thanks. But then I eventually got a call to say that they'd had like a recruitment freeze on, and that was why they hadn't been in contact, and this freeze had now been lifted. And they wanted to offer me the job. So things happened really, really fast. And it was literally a case of trying to get my foot in the door at the Echo, because when I started there, I wasn't doing any football whatsoever. I was doing the things that no one else wanted to do. As the new boy, I was doing the junior sports section, where you might go and cover some karate or judo or the athletics championships, or when the Premier League darts came to Liverpool, I'd go and cover that. Lancashire cricket come to Liverpool, go and cover that. So it was a real kind of gradual process in terms of trying to like edge across to the football side of things. And I also did like what they call sub editing and page design, that thankfully because we had such a small number of staff in Bath, you kind of had to learn to do everything. And I think that helped me as well, because obviously, if you can do different jobs, then you're more valuable to someone.
Yeah, and as you move over to the Liverpool Echo, it is a massive move, because obviously Liverpool, in terms of especially the football, is such a hotbed of football, and it's so invested in people's lives. Like, I suppose a bit like Glasgow. Did it feel? And I know you'd lived there previously as uni, but did it really feel that this is different? This is part of people's lives daily.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, especially the Echo then, because the Echo is probably one of the most, the biggest, strongest, like, regional newspaper brands in the country, and it changed a lot over the course of my time there. And obviously newspapers have fallen on hard times in the kind of digital era, but back then, yeah, I remember when I first joined the Echo, they were selling 110, 115,000 copies every day, and you had the printing press in the basement, and I just absolutely love that buzz of being in the newsroom, like in that hour before deadline when everyone's up against it. And then, when the deadline's passed, you could hear the machines downstairs, whirring. And then within a few minutes, the first few copies were on the desks. And then, we used to even have, there'd be other editions over the day. So if things happened, you'd be updating the paper. And so yeah, the Echo had such a big presence in Liverpool that, yeah, to be part of it and to be part of just such a big prestigious organisation was just, I just absolutely loved it.
And you said that you're completely right about newspapers not being sort of bought as much anymore. So our local one is the Express and Star, which is based in Wolverhampton, and that was something that, except for a Sunday, we had every day, and it really was that, you turn to the back pages, it's the news for me, it was Wolves every day. There was something, you were looking for any bit of information that was new. Do you think that it's a shame that that's sort of, that it is all sort of mostly digital now, or do you think there's a major benefit in it from it moving on?
Yeah, I suppose I sound like a bit of a dinosaur. I do think it is a bit of a shame the way, I remember the buzz of, like, when before I worked at the Echo, the buzz of picking up the paper and finding out what the news was. And of course now that just doesn't happen, does it? Because even if you're a newspaper now that gets a big exclusive, you're sticking it on your website the moment you get it, because the fear is if you don't, then someone else will. I mean, I remember when I was at the Echo, sometimes either yourself or someone else on the desk would have a big story that sometimes wouldn't see the light of day for the best part of 24 hours because you would hold it for, like, the next day's paper. And obviously now the idea that you'd sit on something for ages is just, nonsensical in, like, the way, it's a 24/7 news cycle now, isn't it? So yeah. I mean, the changes. I joined the Echo 2005, the month after Istanbul, and then I was there until 2019. So, what's that? 14 years, and yeah, the changes in that time were absolutely huge in terms of, the way that they shifted away from kind of like the print product to online. And with it, kind of like the demands of the job changed so much as well, because, suddenly out of nowhere you had, podcasts, that they just weren't a thing. And, doing video with pretty much every story that you wrote, because of course, there's they could monetize, adverts on videos and also then feeding the website in a way that, for a long time, as soon as that day's paper was done, someone would, like, draw up a plan for the next day, and it would be like, right, there's going to be 11 pages of sport in the paper tomorrow, 3 pages of Liverpool stuff or whatever, and essentially, like, once you'd kind of, like, worked out how are you going to fill those pages, like, your day was done. But of course, with the shift across to digital, it's like a bottomless pit that, like, it's never. There's no, you don't feel the internet, do you? So it was like they actually, and of course, because then they realised that the shortfall in people not buying the paper wasn't being made up by the digital revenue. Of course, then there becomes more and more pressure to create more and more content to try and get the web hits, to try and, fill the void financially. So the job changed, unbelievably.
You mentioned there, James, about breaking exclusives and that kind of buzz around that. What was your first big exclusive that you broke, and how did you go about kind of maybe holding that back, like you said there?
Yeah, I think the one that jumps out early on was probably Xabi Alonso putting in a transfer request to try and force a move from Liverpool to Real Madrid. I think that was 2009, and so it was. Because obviously I said, like, when I started on the Echo in 2005, I was very much doing the things that no one else wanted to do, and if I did a bit of football, it tended to be, Tranmere Rovers, filling in for our guy if he was off or whatever. And then what kind of helped me in terms of my career was, ironically, Liverpool being in such a mess, because if people remember, like, the ownership of Tom Hicks and George Gillette, where there was so much going on in terms of the off-field stuff. And at that point, there was just one Liverpool reporter who did everything, and pretty much no one else touched Liverpool content. And of course, because of everything, all the politics and all the boardroom disputes, it almost reached a point where you need someone to cover that side of things and someone to cover the football. So kind of I gradually got moved across to kind of help out with Liverpool stuff. And then what happened then was a couple of times in kind of like 2009, and then I think again in 2010, the senior Liverpool reporter left. And so there was a period where I was kind of filling in. So yeah, that Alonso one jumps out because, I was kind of thrown in at the deep end, actually. Like, Liverpool did a pre-season tour of Singapore and Thailand, and I was only told about a week's notice that I was going, and to be honest, I was like fish out of water. I didn't really know how to go about covering it, and I was told, not only do you have to produce stories for the Echo, but at the time the Liverpool Daily Post, which was the Daily Post was the morning newspaper in Liverpool, the Echo was the evening one, and they kind of said you've got to produce stuff for both papers. But yeah, it was like daunting, but also great in terms of getting that opportunity. And then, of course, on that tour, you're trying to then build relationships and kind of get those contacts with people at the club that then, thankfully led to that Alonso story.
And we live in an age now where so much is digital, and they talk about, the players don't have the same relationship with fans. And you mentioned earlier about when you were a fan in the 90s and it was a different time and you could get autographs off players, etc. Is there a big difference between the time sort of 2009, 2010 when you started really covering Liverpool to now? Was it a lot different? Did you have more access? Was it a lot more of a personal relationship?
Yeah. You definitely had a lot more access. Yeah. So I'd kind of tried and failed to become the main Liverpool reporter at the Echo. I think three separate occasions. I think the first time I kind of knew I had no chance, but I thought I'd go in for it anyway. And then the second and third times, I'd actually been filling in whilst someone else they were deciding what they were going to do in terms of filling the vacancy. So when I finally got it in, must have been February 2011. So it was just after Kenny Dalglish had come back as manager for the second time, and kind of people had said to me up to that point, they said, "Oh, you're wasting your time because they've never given this job to a non-Scouser, and they're not going to. Like, they'll always go for someone local." And but I think in the end they probably got a bit sick of saying no to me and thought we might as well give him a chance. So, but yeah, I always remember those opening weeks in the job. Like, I could ring Kenny Dalglish every morning, and you'd ring him when he was on the way to the training ground, and
could you understand him?
Like, just about, but it was. But he was. I mean, he's famously, not particularly forthcoming with information when he faces the media. So, I had some unbelievable conversations with him, where sometimes you'd have 20, 25 minutes on the phone. And then when you'd go through your notes afterwards, you'd realise you had absolutely nothing really that you could make a story out of, because he didn't really want to be drawn on anything. And sometimes, like, I remember I spent ages trying to help him find Eurosport on his telly when he couldn't, he was trying to find some like under 18s game that was on, and it was such a long drawn out process trying to help him find Eurosport that I think my boss was looking across, seeing I was on the phone to him, thinking, oh, he's obviously been on the phone a while, so he's got something decent off Kenny here. And it was, but yeah, I mean, but even just having that kind of access and being it, you used to, when Brendan Rodgers actually took over as manager in 2012, I used to have a one-to-one sit down with him used to be every Thursday in his office. And the usual drill would be you could have like 15 minutes on the record, which obviously just means, you can then quote him on those answers, and 10 or 15 minutes off the record, which, the kind of rules of journalism are, you can, unless you're told otherwise, you can use that information, but just don't quote him. And you realise in this job that most of the time the off the record conversations are way, way more valuable than on the record, because people are obviously going to be more forthcoming and open about what's really going on. If you're not gonna quote them. And I think, and also what kind of really helped me back then were, obviously Steven Gerrard and Jamie Carragher were two absolute mainstays of the team. And they both really valued having a relationship with the local newspaper. So, literally within weeks of being in that job, I was in front of both of them. They gave me their mobile phone numbers, ring me if you need anything, and that, and also that then has a knock-on effect in terms of, because their status in the dressing room was so high. If you're one of the foreign players at that time and they see that Steven Gerrard's stopping to chat to you and Jamie Carragher's doing the same, there's that kind of insinuation of, well, he must be all right. We can, you must be able to trust him if they trust him. So yeah, that was a massive help for me, and that's changed massively. That's changed completely now in terms of, I'd say it's become so much harder to have those kind of relationships because, of course, over that period, things like club media departments have grown and grown. Clubs obviously are probably more careful now in terms of trying to control the narrative in terms of who speaks and when and what they say. And also just with the proliferation of the media rights deals in the Premier League, sometimes I could spend an hour after a game stood around hoping that a player might come through to talk, and then no one comes through. And then I found out afterwards that the player I was hoping to speak to, we had to do 8 or 9 different TV interviews, because not only did he have to do Sky, but he had to do, the Norwegian broadcaster, the South American broadcaster, the Australian one, or whatever. So the whole landscape has changed so much.
And has there been any sort of, have you ever had to break a story? You broke a story, either a transfer or something else, and then it hasn't happened and it's just gone completely wrong?
Yeah, I think not touch wood, nothing that's gone nothing where you've kind of written it and published it and then been made to look kind of really, really silly. There's certainly been ones where the landscape has changed, greatly, and then of course people don't tend to dig up, especially in the digital era where it's so easy to find stuff online and and tweets that you might have put out, and so yeah. I mean, it unfortunately it just goes with the territory that when you write about something, and we all know that things can change so fast. Transfers is like the obvious one. Because, I remember, I think back to when Liverpool bought Alisson Becker off Roma, and, not too long, maybe a couple of months before they actually bought him, they were kind of adamant that the price was too high and, we couldn't possibly, do that deal. And then, and of course, so then you write that at the time. And what happened subsequently was what Roma were asking for him actually dropped by about 20-25 million quid. But of course, some people don't look upon that or don't want to look upon that. The fact that things things change. So yeah, it's always one of the biggest challenges in this job, especially when the transfer window's open, is like, of course you want to be first with the news. You know, that goes without saying. You want to break news and break exclusives, but yeah, it's like I always say that, you know, you're way better off being right and second than being first and wrong, because when you get something wrong, people don't tend to let you forget about it, and especially in an era now where there's so much crap everywhere in terms of rumours, people deliberately spreading falsehoods just to create engagement online on social media. It's an absolute minefield. So I think if you've got a reputation as someone who's kind of trustworthy, and, you know, if someone says, oh, you know, I'll wait until he's said it or he's reported it because then I know it's true, that's really, really important.
And is there a big rival between you and the Everton equivalent of yourself at the time? And does the space get shared, or is it more dominated by Liverpool?
No, I'd say. So when I was at the Echo, no real rivalry with the Everton reporter really, because they always used to get stick off both clubs for, you know, oh, you know, you're the Red Echo or you're the Blue Echo, and the kind of usual kind of paranoia that sometimes football clubs have. And the reality was it was always divided equally. You know, if Everton got the main back page story one day, then, you know, they would, you know, usually make sure the Liverpool got it the next one. So no, the rivalry tends to be between other reporters that cover Liverpool, because that's kind of who you're in competition with, who you're competing with for stories. So yeah, and that was something I probably had to get used to when I became the Liverpool reporter for the Echo, because I realised then that the kind of national Merseyside guys quite often work together. And obviously when they're kind of pooling their resources and sharing information, and it's just you on your own and you're new to the job, you know, that's really hard when you're trying to build relationships and you're up against people that have been doing the job for, you know, in some cases 10, 20 years more than you've been doing it. So yeah, I think I'd say that's kind of changed a bit over the years in terms of there's still competition. Like, you still want to, you know, obviously all national newspapers have like a Liverpool or a Merseyside correspondent. You know, you've got competition. You know, obviously the Echo have got a number of Liverpool reporters. You've got international media that are chasing Liverpool stories as well. So I'd say, yeah, that's where the kind of competition comes in. But there's also a fair bit of kind of helping each other out at times as well, especially when it comes to like match days, and whether it's typing up, you know, manager quotes or mix zone interviews. You know, these kind of things tend to be shared, because that, you know, that's the right way to do it. Because I think if you're just out for yourself, then, you know, things will come back to bite you on the backside at some point. You know, I think it works well helping each other out when you can, but there's also that kind of proviso that, you know, if you get a good story, of course you're not going to share that round, because you want the kudos of being able to put it out first yourself.
And you mentioned obviously being a Liverpool fan, like myself. How do you cover Liverpool in those down periods? How do you know, take the emotion away from your, you know, journalism?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I've always thought it helps rather than hinders the fact that being a fan, and hopefully it kind of, when, you know, each day, and, you know, you kind of think to yourself, well, what are the topical issues today? What are the things that, if, you know, as a fan, what would I want the answer to? What would I want to know? What are my mates who go to the games every week? What are they talking about? And you try and tap into that, because, you know, if you're not writing about stuff that fans are genuinely kind of emotionally invested in, then you're kind of wasting your time, because, you know, no journalist wants to write stuff that doesn't get read. So I've always looked upon it as a benefit rather than kind of, you know, a problem that you're kind of like emotionally invested. Like, I think because also sometimes people want to, you know, it's very clear as the Liverpool correspondent for The Athletic, I am writing for a particular audience. So it's a bit different than writing for all. If say this weekend coming up, Liverpool are playing Manchester United, I'll be at Old Trafford. We'll have Man United reporters there writing a specific Man United piece. So I don't need to write something that like factors in everything and is fair and balanced in terms of, I should talk about Bruno Fernandes and how good he was, because it's like, no, that's not my proviso, is to write a very Liverpool-centric piece on what are the main takeaways from this game. So it's interesting over the years how, like, I think it does change you as a, in terms of as a fan, because even when you have the delight of like a late Liverpool winner, it's not the pure relation that it used to be when you were just there as a fan, because usually a late winner, especially if it's a night game, means a massive rewrite of whatever you've written, deleting chunks and having to start again, and that. So obviously you've got that kind of pressure and adrenaline going, which and sometimes I miss that, because sometimes you come back from a game and you're like, wow, that was stressful, when you're thinking, I wish I'd have been able to enjoy that more for what it was. I mean, the greatest game I've ever covered at Anfield was when Liverpool beat Barcelona 4-0 in the Champions League semi in 2019, and that was kind of, I suppose that was a night when afterwards I'm thinking, I wish I was just there as a fan, because of course, like, you've also, from a journalistic point of view, you're trying to do justice to one of the most astonishing things that I've ever witnessed. And
obviously, being a journalist, you're a lot closer to the club, a lot closer to the players, and us as fans are always looking for that, as Rob said about reading the paper, looking for that next exclusive. What do you think that us fans kind of miss compared to you guys who are really close to the club and the fans? What's something that we kind of misperceive?
I think there's a few misconceptions that I sometimes see people saying that, like, you've obviously been told to write this. You've been told to write this. You've been told to write that. You're not allowed to write this. You're not, and it's so much nonsense that people believe online in terms of. I read recently about Liverpool that I think it was after Liverpool drew at home to Tottenham, which felt like a crushing defeat because Tottenham were in such a mess. And I kept reading that someone had suggested there's a WhatsApp group where reporters that cover Liverpool are told what they can and can't say after a game. And it's just like, it's just so weird, because I can honestly say, like, hand on heart, no one has ever tried to influence what I've written after a game. It just doesn't happen, because of course sometimes you can have disagreements with people at the club afterwards. If they think you've been overly critical, then occasionally you might get a phone call or a message, which is absolutely fine, and you can talk through, no, I stand by it because this is why I wrote what I did. But yeah, that's a nonsense. And I think also the idea that with transfers, there's some kind of, I get the impression that some fans think there's some kind of like hotline that reporters just ring to find out whether something is true or not, when the reality is just so different. When you're chasing transfer stories, you're trying to speak to agents, you're trying to speak to scouts, recruitment figures, whether it's the owners, people at the club, or people who work in club media, anyone who might have a little snippet of information, because clubs don't want to get drawn into constantly having to say whether a transfer rumor is right or wrong or anything else. So yeah, I think that's a misconception, because I think it's very much it seems to be a modern thing with social media that kind of, if you don't agree with what someone's written, the default reaction seems to have been, you've been told to say that, or you've been told to write that, or even worse, you've been paid to write that. I've had people say to me, FSG, who own Liverpool, they've paid you to write that. And it's just like, it's just so so crazy. Yeah, I mean, someone once said to me like, "Oh, John Henry must have, he's written that himself." And I'm thinking, well, I would have been happy. I mean, he'd have saved me 3 hours if he'd have written it himself and just emailed it to me. But no, that's the reality is very, very different.
When you just said about hotline, that just took me back. Can you remember the in the 90s? There's those club calls. Club calls. Bring up, they give you some info. Oh,
yeah. My mum used to kill me when the phone bill arrived.
Yeah. As long as it was those numbers you were phoning. Just on that, Joe. Obviously, you've been a fan and you've covered, Liverpool for so long. Do you miss not being able to go as a fan? Or have you done it that long that you don't know any different? Because as a Wolves fan, I'd probably like not to be able to go as a fan and to be able to work sometimes. But is it something that you miss?
Yeah, but do you know what? Funny enough, my son Max is 13, so and he got into football quite late actually. I took him a few times when he was like 6 or 7, and he wasn't massively keen, and I didn't want to push him into it. And I think I got the impression when he was young as well that he associated football with me not being around and being away and all the rest of it. But certainly probably since he's been 11 for the last couple of years, he's completely gone the other way. Like now he's absolutely obsessed, wants to go everywhere following Liverpool. And quite often one of my mates will take him to games. So that, yeah, I do miss that. I do make sure, that a couple of times every season I'll book a weekend off and me and him will go as fans. We went like when Liverpool played Palace away back in September, me and him had like a weekend in London, went to Palace as fans, and and usually like the early rounds of the domestic cups, like Carabao Cup and FA Cup, one of the other lads will do the match for the Athletic, and I'll take Max. So yeah, I do definitely miss it, but then I also, it's nice to be able to do it a couple of times a season, and it's also just I'm very lucky. I know I'm very lucky to do a job that I love as well. Like it's it's to be writing about the club that I kind of grew up supporting. I don't. Yes, it's not at times the job's not particularly easy, but yeah, it is an absolute privilege to do it.
And obviously, as we're a bit of a retro football podcast, the title being "And I Would Love It If We Beat Them," if you remember that from Kevin Keegan.
Yeah.
Is there one story throughout your kind of time that you'd wish you could have broke or covered?
It's a tricky one, really. Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. One of the big thrills for me was I did the first interview with Steven Gerrard after he announced that he was leaving Liverpool. It was out in 2015. So that would have to be right up there in terms of being able to sit down with him and talk about his reasons for deciding to move on. I suppose if I was thinking about a more kind of modern one, I'd love to have been able to break the news that the bombshell that Klopp was leaving when he delivered that, because that was a kind of a masterstroke in terms of keeping something quiet, because he'd actually told the owners 2 months before in the November, and then it was a kind of closely guarded secret up to the announcement in late January. And I mean, I probably shouldn't be kicking myself, because not even the players saw that coming, and some of his closest staff members. But yeah, that would have been a good one to break if I managed to get wind of it in advance.
And just before we finish on Matt's quick fire questions, obviously you moved to the Athletic in 2019.
Yeah.
Want to tell us about a bit about that and what it involves and what your sort of role is?
Yeah. So again, I'd kind of reached a point at the Echo where I was starting to think, well, I would love to move on to something else, and the demands of the job at the Echo had kind of multiplied so much in terms of like they were expecting you to produce 6-7 articles pretty much every day, and you didn't really feel like you ever got the chance to properly research anything, or because it was always like it was just the pursuit of web hits, and I think it definitely damaged the credibility of the Echo at that time, because it kind of when the management's motivation is just web hits, it becomes almost like a race to the bottom in terms of the quality of the content. So when the Athletic contacted me out the blue and basically said, we're expanded into the UK and Europe, we're gonna recruit correspondents to cover every Premier League club for us, and we want you to cover Liverpool for us, and we want it to be in-depth reporting where, rather than you do 6 or 7 things a day, probably 3 or 4 a week, but it's got to be like good stuff. It's got to be, well researched and, detailed content that's not available anywhere else. I was just like, wow, this is exactly what, this couldn't have worked out any better. So it was a bit of a gamble at the time, because, some people said to me, like, what are you doing? Imagine if the Athletic try it for 12 months and it doesn't work, and then, where does that leave you? But I just thought, well, after 14 years at the Echo, and also the chances to move on to national newspapers had kind of dwindled, with staff numbers at newspapers in general being cut back and lots of redundancies. So it was difficult to see a kind of a progression after the Echo. So coming up to 7 years now, I've been covering Liverpool for the Athletic, basically wherever they go, whether it's in Europe or around the world on tours and everything else. I follow them around. It's never a dull day. There's always, Liverpool. It's incredible in terms of just how much news there always is. Yeah. They're a genuinely great company to work for, the Athletic. I'm delighted that it's taken off in the way it did, because obviously the subscription model. You are relying on people being willing to put their hand in their pocket and pay for stuff after probably an era when people became used to newspapers giving everything away for free online. But I think we probably have reached a point in that cycle where people have seen, actually, when it is just all about getting web hits, you get this clickbait stuff that I think drives most people insane, and the proliferation of just nonsensical rumors that are just there to drive web traffic. So to be able to be away from that, doing proper stuff, and working with really good people, I feel very lucky.
Brilliant. Sounds absolute dream job, James. To end, we always ask these kind of quick fire questions. I think you answered this earlier, but best game that you've ever watched?
It would have to be Liverpool 4, Barcelona 0 in the second leg of that Champions League game. Yeah, especially factored in there was no Salah that night, no Firmino.
Yeah.
Barcelona with Messi, arguably the greatest ever. So to turn around that 3-goal deficit, I've had some very special nights at Anfield over the last 40 years, but nothing beats that one.
Brilliant. And then best stadium that you've been to?
Do you know what? I absolutely love Atletico Madrid's one, the Metropolitano in Madrid. Saw Liverpool lift the European Cup there in 2019, and great atmosphere. I like Atletico as a club as well. So I'd say that's probably right up there for me.
Brilliant. And best player that you've seen live?
Oh, that is a tricky one. I remember going back quite a long time now. It must have been early 2000s, seeing Rivaldo play against Liverpool, and just being like, oh, wow, this fella is just so special. I mean, Messi in the first leg of that semi-final at the Nou Camp. Just unbelievable. Liverpool-wise, I'd still go with Steven Gerrard. I think Mo Salah runs him close with the unbelievable stuff he's delivered in the last 9 years. But I think in terms of the most complete footballer, I've ever seen in a Liverpool shirt, yeah, it would have to be Gerrard. Because I think you also have to, when you assess Gerrard, you have to also, do it in the context of he didn't have the luxury of being surrounded by world-class players. He dragged that team up almost single-handedly at times. So, yeah, for me, he's still the greatest.
Yeah, totally agree. And then best time, either as a fan or a journalist, best time in your life?
Yeah, do you know what? It would, in terms of like a moment as a fan and a journalist, it was probably being at Anfield when the win over Tottenham wrapped up the Premier League a year ago, because and again I think it was just all the emotion that was kind of like part of that achievement, because I was one of the few lucky ones that was actually inside Anfield 5 years before when Liverpool won the title under Klopp. But it was weird because, as much as it was like a bit of an honour to be inside Anfield, because there was probably only 300 or 400 people inside Anfield that night because of the pandemic restrictions. But it was like, it was also sadness, because it was like, of all the way, if someone had said to me, what the scenario is going to be when Liverpool end their 30-year wait for the title, the idea that it would be sat in an almost deserted Anfield, it just felt like so wrong, really. So I think that was why last year was so incredible, because I looked around me and people were in tears, and you had the people embracing each other, different generations of families, because Liverpool hadn't won the Premier League title in front of their own fans for 35 years. So yeah, I'd say in terms of a moment, yeah, nothing beats that.
Brilliant. Fantastic, brilliant way to finish. James, thanks so much. It's been really, we've had some great guests on so far who obviously have talked through, as ex-footballers are you. So to have someone from a journalistic point of view has been really, really interesting. So massive thank you, James, and thanks so much for your time.
Cool, no worries, guys. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Cheers. Great interview. Really given, some great stories as well, so hope everyone enjoyed that. So part of World Cup memory lane, as we're doing every episode. So we've done 86, we've done 90, and now we're on to USA 94.
Yeah, big one, I suppose, not England's.
Exactly. So literally on my notes, my first thing is, weirdly, it's England not qualifying. So
yeah.
It was big, and we didn't have we had Ireland there, but we didn't have Wales, Scotland either. It was England not qualifying. So should we quickly, briefly talk about the build-up for England there that we didn't qualify?
Best documentary ever. I'm saying so.
What's that? The
Impossible Job.
Yeah,
Taylor.
So Graham Taylor took over. So I think my first football match I actually remember watching live was England versus San Marino away. Yeah. I think we beat them 8-0, and in my 7-year-old head, I couldn't understand why we'd beaten a team 8-0, but everyone was really disappointed. And then we got to the following summer, and I realised why.
Yeah.
So we'd had it. Do you know what I will say? If you look at the qualifying then, and obviously it was terrible not qualifying, but we did have them days. It wasn't loads of minnows like we have now. We had Poland in there, we had
Netherlands,
Holland in there, who were a good team. 6 years before they'd won the Euros, they still had the likes of your Koeman in there, Bergkamp, Overmars. They were a good team. And obviously what happened away when literally Koeman pulled someone back, Platt had gone through, it was a red card, and Koeman was a brilliant player, but
it's also a penalty.
It was a penalty. He should have been sent off, and then he scores the free kick after, and he came to managing this country, and literally no one gave him any stick. I found it bizarre. I was like, and he was a brilliant footballer, brilliant football centre half, but no one gave him any stick. So, and I think did we draw them twice? Oh, we lost away, obviously.
Lost away.
Drew and then I think we'd had. Was it Norway? We had Norway in there as well.
Norway, we got back.
I'm not being. So that's the one defence I'll give Graham Taylor. except for that.
A lot of injuries as well, to be fair to him. Some strange selections.
Yeah.
You always go on about 92, wasn't it, when Batty was playing right back, I think?
Batty played, right. It was he picked some players in 92 who were great players but hadn't played for a few. It was just a bit odd. It was just a bit odd. But the 90, we didn't qualify, and it was because we'd had so much hope after the 1991. 92, it was a bit of a weird, there was only...
Nobody remembers a 92.
No one remembers it. There was only, it was a big achievement to qualify for it, because there was only, in that, before Euro 96, the Euros before that was only 8 teams.
We should have got through that group, though. Who was it? France, Sweden, Denmark? Or not? Yeah, Denmark.
Yeah.
Obviously Denmark.
Denmark won it, and France, so to not qualify was so disappointing. But that's it, England weren't there. So
I suppose it's quite a nap one as well for this year, being back in America.
Yeah. So I think they'd picked America because it was meant to be upcoming nation to try and get football there. What I found out was, and actually when I read it, it wasn't actually that surprising. Up until the last World Cup, it was the most profitable World Cup.
Most attended as well.
It was, and actually there was less teams there.
Yeah.
And I suppose a lot of people got behind Ireland because they had Premier League players.
Jack Charles.
So it starts off, I think the other thing we're going to mention is opening ceremony, Diana Ross.
We found somebody who's worse at penalties than us.
But ever the professional, she just carries on singing like she's knocked it down. And then the ball goes... So just, if anyone hasn't seen it, they've got Diana Ross doing the opening ceremony. She's singing, and part of the thing is she's going to take this penalty. The ball's going to go in this temporary goal, and as it goes in, the goal's going to collapse. But she misses the penalty. It goes wide. But fair play. She carries on singing, and they still knock the goal down.
Yeah.
So that was that. What I loved then was, and I remember watching the first game, so it was still the time when the winners of the previous World Cup would start it. And it didn't matter what group you've been drawn in. So I suppose it's a bit of a nightmare. If say you were drawn in group F or G, but then you'd play your first game. And I remember it was Germany against Bolivia. I remember Klinsmann scoring on a Friday night. I think it was Friday night, but I remember that. And it was still when that happened. Obviously, Brazil went on to win it.
Something they should bring back.
Penalties. I think so.
Yeah, I liked it. Bit of tradition.
Yeah.
Just doing a bit of research on it as well. Obviously, America not a big footballing nation at the time, but part of the agreement was that they had to bring in a league. The MLS wasn't a league then. That came in 1996 as part of the agreement, which I suppose is a bit strange, not having a football league, but hosting a World Cup, I suppose. And as we said, the highest attended World Cup ever, with the highest attended final. And
I think we played like a tournament out there the summer before.
93,
And I think they beat us, USA. Yeah. And they had who was
Alexis Lalas.
Yeah, they had him. He had like the beard, didn't he?
Yeah.
And who was it who played? There was a couple of players who came over and played for Coventry, I think.
Casey Keller? Was he playing there?
Casey Kelly, he was at Leicester, wasn't he?
Leicester.
I forget now. But they played. I think they did okay in it. I think maybe they got to the quarters. I think the top scorers were Stoichkov, who was a brilliant player, Bulgaria. And then there was a Russian.
Yeah, who is the only chap to ever win the Golden Boot but not get out of the group stage. Never been done before.
They beat Cameroon.
Oleg
Salenko, that's it. I think he only scored 6 goals for Russia, and they were all at a World Cup, and 5 of them was against Cameroon.
I think so.
They were joint. I think there was I haven't got this in my note. I think was Roy Hodgson manager of Switzerland there?
He was.
Yeah, and I think Sweden did well.
Roger Miller's still playing at the age of 42.
Miller. They still had groups where they had like a league of the best third place finishes. There was about 6 who went through, and I think Ireland were one of those. So Ireland, we'll cover Ireland like we would cover England.
Yeah.
They start the thing. They got Italy, and I've heard a few interviews where They went to the stadium thinking it's going to be, a lot of Italians who live in America, especially in New York, and they thought it was going to be Italian. But apparently, I think it was like 3/4 full Irish.
Yeah. They travel well.
They travelled well. Ireland's first game, they beat Italy.
Yeah.
What I will say about Ireland is, in all fairness to them, and this is the same at the 1990 as well, I find it a bit patronising towards them, where it's, fair play Ireland, they have a great time. They have some good players. Like Paul McGrath was one of the best players I ever saw. Yeah. He was brilliant. They had him. Ray Houghton was...
Roy Keane.
Roy Keane, Dennis Irwin.
Townsend.
Andy Townsend, Terry Phelan.
John Aldridge.
Look, they did have some really good players. Yeah. So they get a 1-0 win. Then I think they lose to Mexico. They draw with Norway.
Mexico's the game that Aldridge is going mental.
Is that right
one? I think so, with the water.
Didn't they? Weren't they like carrying bags of water on?
Steve Saunton with his cap.
And he's trying to make. Aren't they trying to get him on, Aldridge?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously got Jack Charlton there.
Maybe that's what they mean by they're doing well. The heat, sunburn. But yeah, they did very well.
I'm not sure if they finished second in the group or one of the third places. I'm not sure, but I think they lose to Holland in the next second round. But yeah, they were. I think that's probably what a lot of people would have followed was them. There was of course the famous bunker. ITV bunker where
Dallas.
Yeah, so I think instead of going around the stadiums, they had a studio in the heat of America, which was in a bunker.
Yeah.
With obviously no windows, and I think that was a bit of a nightmare from in there as well. So that was quite famous.
You have the Maradona celebration. His eyes are going.
Yeah, I wonder.
Well, they try saying it's a weight loss drug. I struggle to believe that somehow. Yeah, and then you've got obviously Baggio's ponytail.
Baggio's, the ponytail, and obviously you have the final. It's 0-0. It wasn't a great game. Brazil went on penalties, and I remember at primary school, and you had like. A lot of Italians went to our school, being a Catholic school. And I remember I was 8 and my first experience of conspiracy theories, and it was all about Baggio, that he'd been threatened, that he'd better miss, or there was like a spell in his ponytail that made him miss, and all these conspiracy theories were going around the school, and it was like,
It's a pretty boring final, wasn't it? Because I think Baresi got injured in the first game against Ireland. He went home and had surgery, and he didn't play until the final. And he marks Romario about the game.
Oh, okay.
And it's quite a boring. I think it's probably one of the most boring.
It was the first one to go to penalties final, and I think Brazil then became fourth-time winners. So it was the first time they had done that. But that's some good players, Brazil. I mean, you had Romario, Bebeto, I think Dunga, maybe Tafarel in goal. I'm not sure if Ronaldo was R9. Was he a young kid on the bench?
He was in the squad, and he was called Ronaldinho. He was in the squad. Isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah. He was in the squad. But I think they were the best team. But I think it's one of the most boring World Cups in terms of performance.
Yeah, there was some good players. Like I said about Stoichkov, I think Georgie Hadji had a good World Cup. Obviously, we said about Romario. So there was some good. I mean, for me, because I can't remember at the time, 1990 World Cup at the time, it probably wasn't that weird to me not being there. But I imagine for people who are older than me, it was probably a strange World Cup, because I remember the Euros. It was at 2008 we didn't qualify for, and it was a bit odd.
Yeah, about time.
So, and I don't think it particularly did a lot for USA football that time. I think it still took a long time after.
I think quite a boring World Cup in terms of the actual games. I think it's the first World Cup after the back pass rule, which I thought was going to, create that attacking football.
Yeah, it would be.
Obviously, the first World Cup to have 3 points as well, which was to encourage attacking football. And then it was also the first World Cup after Gazza's tears, which they changed the yellow cards, getting wiped after the group stage.
Okay.
So it was, they call it the first like modern World Cup, which I suppose it was.
I imagine it's like really hot.
Yeah.
I imagine it was really hot. The summer in the USA. But what gets me is, you've got a country like the USA, and, I imagine for all the other nations it was brilliant. But why now do I have to have it in 3 countries? The size of the USA is just
travel.
bonkers.
Yeah, the travel's going to be horrendous.
I remember the one song was
Darryl Hall.
No, it was the one song for the ITV, I think it was.
Oh,
Or it
right.
might have been BBC. It was
That could be any tune, by the way. Absolutely any tune.
yeah, probably, yeah. I know it in my head anyway.
It was
That's
the
all that
first,
counts.
I think it's one of the first World Cups to have a pop song go into the charts. Didn't chart very well.
What song was that?
It was Glory Land.
Glory Land, and that was the ITV theme tune, I think.
Oh,
Glory
okay.
Land. That
It's
wasn't
by-
the one I was trying to do.
It is by Darryl Hall.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, right,
Part of
okay.
Hall and Oates. Pretty horrendous songs, like Baywatch mixed with Jason Donovan.
I'm a fan of both, so I don't mind. So, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a bit of a underwhelming World Cup, but I'm not sure if that's because we're English.
I think so, but it was my first World Cup that I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my first World Cup that I remember. So yeah, and there was some really good players. So it was at the same time that ITV started doing the Champions League,
Yes.
where you had your players in, from
Barcelona.
Barcelona and players like that. So there seemed to be quite a few. You seem to know a few.
I think Stoichkov was the standout, you'd say.
He was a good
They
player.
got to the semi-final. They'd never won a World Cup match before that.
Hadn't they?
No.
Bulgaria. They had a player called Lechkov as well. He was
Lechkov,
good.
yeah.
He was good, yeah. Oh, right, okay. Well,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah. I haven't actually got much to add on this World
I
Cup.
haven't, and it probably is the England thing, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Whereas I think the one before we loved and the one after is quite...
Yeah. So,
quite good.
But yeah, USA 94, there we go.
Yeah. Out of 10, what would you give it?
5.
I think that's generous.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't not bad quality, though.
No.
I don't remember the games being real bad quality, but I think that England not being there, I think the fact that it's my first one I remember and England weren't there was...
Underwhelming.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But yeah, that's 1994 World Cup. I think next, this is where our debut of producer Mol comes in.
Yeah, quiz.
Yeah, I wonder what year.
So what are we doing then, Mol?
Yeah, what are we doing? Is it the one you told me before?
Oh, this looks like we've rigged it now.
Yeah, need to edit that.
I can't.
Need to edit
It's
that.
not on the switches.
1998,
998.
England World Cup squad.
Oh, got it.
So should we do that bit again?
Yeah, well, I'll put that out. We'll do that again.
Yeah.
What's the same?
So,
What
so
is
the
it now?
debut thing.
Yeah, go for the debut. Yeah.
Oh. So this is the debut of producer Mol. I think she's rustled up a lovely quiz for us.
Yeah.
What quiz we got, Mol?
So, I'll be quizzing you on the England squad of the 1998 World Cup.
Ooh.
Good prep for episode 4, that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you reckon you'd be good at this?
Mate, do you know what I am? Are you writing down the ones you're naming?
Yeah.
Because when we've done the 1 to 11 quizzes, I do forget a bit, and if you repeat
Yeah.
it, it's obviously you lose a life. So, what we're going to do then, Mole? So, is it a case of we'll take turns each? If you get 2 wrong,
You're out.
you're out.
Yes.
So, and it's 1-1 on quizzes.
2 lives each.
Yeah, 2 lives each.
Yeah.
You should go back and forth naming them. Whoever goes up first.
Who wants the honours?
You go first.
Because I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start with the obvious seaman.
Yeah.
Yeah, always name your seaman. I'll go for Paul Merson.
Yeah.
You will not miss. I'll go for Sol Campbell.
Yeah.
I'll go for Gary Neville.
Yeah.
I'll go for Tony Adams.
Yeah.
I'll go for Paul Ince.
Yeah.
The governor. I will go for Graham Lasso.
Yeah.
Just on Paul Ince there, do you reckon he took a penalty because he got a bit of stick, didn't he, for not taking one in 96?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because he didn't want to. Yeah, and he should have took that. I'm saying, yeah. And I wonder if he did that. I don't want to start conspiracy theories like Roberto Baggio when I was at school about his ponytail, but, you know, there we go. Right, me. I'll say David Batty.
Yeah, also missed, didn't he? I will go for Owen.
Yeah.
I'll go for Paul Scholes.
Didn't make the combined 11. I will go for Teddy Sheringham.
Yeah.
I'll go for Alan Shearer.
Shearer. I will go for Southgate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in, wasn't he?
I'll go for David Beckham.
Yeah.
I will go for Darren Anderton.
Yeah.
And I'll go for Steve McManaman.
Yes.
Did make. I thought you were going to say Steve Baldwin. I will go for. I will go for. Oh, it's tough, isn't it? I'll go for Sir Les Ferdinand.
Oh,
I don't think
mine.
he did go.
That was mine.
Never doubt Sir Les. That's what I'll say.
I'll go for, this could be a big gamble,
Andy Mudge.
Tim Flowers.
Yeah.
That's my next one.
How many we got?
Um,
1,
We've got-
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 18.
Only 5 left then.
4 left. I've got 22.
Oh, it's only a 22 one.
Might have been. Might have been.
Whoa. Well, there's got to be another keeper. I don't know who would have been it at the time. Not going to risk it. I will go with. Parker didn't go. It's got to be another centre half here. Another centre half. Martin Keown.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to go for Rio Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did go, didn't he?
So that leaves 2.
2.
So it's basically, we can only get one wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got 2 lives left still.
Yeah, but it's got to go down to one life, innit? You have to have a winner.
Are we allowed clues at this time? Positions? No? Okay. Okay. Who would have been good round there? Stuart Pearce? I don't think he went, no. No.
So if I get this right, I've won, haven't I?
Yeah.
I'm going to go for, and it's out of 2 goalkeepers. It's out of 2 goalies.
Who are you thinking?
Can I say who I'm thinking? Yeah, but if I get it wrong, you might say the next one. Oh no, we've only got one wrong each then, haven't we? There's another goalie, and there is another. I think there's another wide player. I do. I'm going to go for Nigel Martin.
Yeah.
Yes! My other one was
that.
Ian Walker. Is that him or Ian Walker? So I won that, but I'll be honest with you.
I thought Tim
That
Flowers.
I have to say, from us both, that was
we did
decent.
well.
Do you remember who the last player was?
Yes,
Oh,
please.
give us a clue. What
Just
position?
for fun.
It doesn't say what was it.
Paul Gascoigne, wasn't it?
The initials there.
RL.
RL.
Oh, no.
Robert
Rob
Lee.
Lee, yeah.
Good player,
Yeah.
Rob Lee.
I think we did well there, but
Did well.
obviously
Yeah.
you won.
2-1 to Rob.
2-1. I think that's a brilliant way to end it.
Thanks for that, Mal. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We look forward to episode 4.
Yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, get on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everything. Really appreciate it. And episode 3 done.